action. Okay, so the facing pieces, if you have sometimes the skirt doesn't have a waistband, but we still need to clean up the upper edge of the waistband, so we use a facing for that. And the facing pieces in this particular type of skirt, which is the A-line skirt, doesn't have any darts, okay? So the facing shape will follow the same shape as your skirt waistline and side seam, and usually the facing is like a couple of inches below the waist. The seam allowance at the waistline is 1/2 inch, and the lower edge of the facing will be a free edge that's hanging inside the garment unless you have a lining. If you have a lining, you will be attaching the lower edge of the facing to the lining piece, to the upper edge of the lining piece. All right, but also the facing is made out of the same fashion fabric, and it is interfaced so that it kind of gives body and shape to that waistline. So you're gonna put the right side of the facing to the right side of the waistline. All right, and I am going to match my edges and pin the two pieces together. All right, again, it is a similar situation to what I was describing with the waistband of a skirt. In this case, you will have a front waist facing and the back waist, the two pieces that are back waist facings. They are attached to each other at the side seam, so that when you are facing the whole waist, you are facing the whole waist of the facing to the whole waist of the skirt itself. All right, I am showing just how to finish the center back part because that's the tricky part of the whole thing. I am pinning waistline to waistline. All right, and I am going to stitch the waistline, and I am aligning the notch, the center back notch, with the fold also of the skirt, of the invisible zipper fold back. Okay, come closer so that you can see what I'm talking about. Right, so I applied the invisible zipper, and once it's applied, it folds back the fabric. Right, so this notch needs to coincide with this notch of the zipper itself. All right, and I did the same thing on the other side. The first line of stitching is stitching the two waistlines of the two pieces together at 1/2 inch seam allowance. So I'll take few stitches, back stitch, number 2 stitch, and then I'll remove my pins, and I will stop stitching where this notch is. Okay, I'll show you one side, and the other side will be done exactly the same so that I don't have to hold you too long. Right, so once I got to the notch, I back stitched. All right, and then I'll trim my thread, and for the facing to stay inside the garment, what do I need to do? What did we do to keep a part inside the garment? What did we do? What was the technique that we did to do that? I am right now I am trimming my seam allowance in half. Does this give you any hints? Any hints? Under stitching. Thank you. All right, so I want to keep the facing inside the garment. So I trimmed my seam allowance, and I pulled my seam allowance under the facing, and I will edge stitch it from the right side of the garment, a 1/16 of an inch away from the connection seam. And I will also stop right at that notch, so I will stop about 1/2 inch away from the edge of the folded edge. Okay, I'm not gonna go all the way to the end. Once I understitched, now I am forcing my facing to stay inside the garment. Okay, so it's gonna fold to the inside, and I'm going to bring, I shouldn't have catched, so don't catch on the zipper, right? Because I am folding the two pieces together to bring the short edge of the facing on top of my zipper tape, and I'm working from the inside of the garment. Okay, so this is the understitching part. Okay, so I flip them where it's right side of the facing to the right side of the skirt, and I'm going to stitch this short edge in the middle of my zipper tape. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna come here and I'm aligning both row edges together, and I'm just going to stitch in the middle of my zipper tape. Okay, now I can fold back so that I clean up. So I cleaned up the inside of the facing, and I covered the facing seam allowance and the zipper tape, right? And it's creating a nice clean look from the inside and out. There is a bulky area over here, so I can flip right there, and I can grade my seam allowance in this corner to reduce the bulk, and then I'll flip it back in, and it's nice and clean and flat. Okay, and you're gonna do the other side exactly the same, and that's before I go ahead, and after I do that I will attach a hook and eye behind the zipper so that it holds the ends together, right? So I'll do that, and then I'll go check the buttonhole machine, and then I'll take you to do buttonhole over there, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to attach the hand stitching stuff. Keep working, and I'll call you when I'm ready. So I am stitching the other side. Half an inch from the waist line, the raw edge of the waistline. Back stitching beginning and end, and I started at the fold of the zipper. Trimming my thread as I go. And then I will trim my seam allowance in half and understitch. By pulling the seam allowance under the facing part. So I'll took a few stitches, back stitch, and then I'll continue under stitching until I finish my whole seam. Back stitching at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to flip the I will flip my facing, where the right side of the facing is meeting the right side of the garment, and also on top of the zipper tape, and I will be stitching over here to hold the two pieces together. Okay. So I'm going to stitch few stitches and then back stitch, and then continue stitching until I finish the whole seam. Okay, and then I'll trim my thread, and then now I can fold this inside out. Okay, and I'll finish this tiny part also horizontally. And then I can flip my facing inside out. Before I do that, I will grade my corner. So that finishes the zipper corner nice and clean. And again, it should look like this, so it's nice and clean on the inside and on the outside.